Now, was there ever a time, okay, we've heard testimony about a Barbie doll incident. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay, what happened there?
I made it to roll call, and I was already feeling like race discriminated against at that point.
This is after, I assume, you make the complaints about the not getting backup.
Correct.
Okay.
And the freeway thing with Sawchuck, the only black person in the big largest zone. You got I-94 east and west, and you got 794. That's all zone 2.
And I appreciate that. I'm going to interrupt you then. So we had testimony from Ms. Sawchuck, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you complained to her personally about the issues with the freeway, the zone patrol?
Yes.
Okay. And or we're going to say lack of backup. You complained to her about the lack of backup?
Yes.
Okay. After that, were you punished in any way?
I was written up later. I was retaliated against because once I went to HR about it, I got written up. I got 2 write-ups, one from Byers and one from Sawchuck. Later on, right after I went to an HR meeting, literally not even a whole month. It was literally like weeks after, which they both, one was 7 months ago, and then one was like 5 months ago or something like that. And then I got written up a week or and a half after I went to HR.
Which HR is this the same HR meeting that we're talking about with the 2 HR people and Mr. Gladney?
Yes.
Okay. And which is about the
No, those are 2 different ones. Now this is my second time going to HR.
Okay.
So February, I believe February 20 something. That's when I went to HR about Mary Sawchuck, Lieutenant Sawchuck.
This is okay. So now I appreciate that. So we're in the second time that you've gone to HR.
Yes.
Is Mr. Gladney there?
Was he there? No, he wasn't there at that.
Who was at that meeting?
It was just myself and Mary Dukewicz.
Okay. And what was did you make some complaints at that meeting?
I did. I was just letting her know things haven't gotten better. And just letting her know, since the last meeting, I went to her to get request open records files to view, just to see my record.
Okay, so you made a public records complaint and you went to HR. Did you go on your own or did somebody allow you to go?
So that happened because what happened? I'm trying to remember. I went to HR. I think it was an incident with myself, and Sawchuck.
Okay, because did you hear testimony from Ms. Sawchuck that you threatened to go to HR during the meeting with her?
No, I don't think she said that part.
Okay, well, but then let me ask you this. You were written up by Sawchuck for that meeting, right?
Yes, the meeting I had with Sawchuck.
Okay, but the actual write-up didn't take place until you had the meeting with HR?
No, so the incident with myself and Sawchuck, it had occurred already.
Okay.
But when I went to HR, then I received the write-ups. The write-ups, it was just supposed to be, or I guess counseling or whatever. But the day I went to HR, and then a week later, that conversation I had with Sawchuck became a write-up.
I got it. But so, just to be clear, how much time is there between the incident and the write-up for the incident for Sawchuck?
So I received the write-up on like the late April.
Okay.
But the incident occurred, I believe, like February 20 something.
Okay. I got it.
February something.
But in between those 2 events, you went to HR.
Correct.
Now I got it. Okay. And I guess what was did you complain about Ms. Sawchuck in your meeting with HR?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. you know, about the meeting we had, you know, how I was mistreated and everything that I spoke to them in the first meeting about the racial treatment, you know, that happened about like how whites are allowed in their office. I go there, ask a simple question. Lucky, why you're in my office, and white deputies, anybody can tell the truth about that. All white deputies in the office having fun, having a ball, can go inside the office, and the moment I get in there, I'm getting kicked out or not being allowed to go in there. You know, like it's an all white room or something. You know,
But so you noticed that when you would enter a room, the atmosphere would change.
correct. The atmosphere would change, and that's what led to this write up from Ms. Sacha.
Okay, and you thought that was race-based because it wasn't happening to anybody else who wasn't black.
Correct, because prior to me walking to her office, there were white deputies in there, and I'm waiting patiently, which I was advised by another supervisor to go to her. I was instructed. The day before, I went to Sergeant Thiep, which he's retired, and I asked him about the doctor. I had a doctor's excuse that I need to be approved. And he said, "Lucky, I'm not over." He said, "I'm not over scheduling. You have to ask Sawchuck." I emailed her already. I spoke with her, and she said, "You can come to talk to her tomorrow." So the next day, when I spoke to Thiep, I said, "You think it's a good time now?" He said, "Oh, sure, go ahead. You know, she'll take care of you." You know, he's the one sent me in there because he had no power over scheduling. But before I went in there were white deputies in there. They all laughing, you know, and I'm thinking in my head, okay, I want to hurry up and get in service, you know, but they was having a ball. So I waited about 3 to 5 minutes until they got done talking. So when they finally got out, I thought it was okay to go in because they were just having a good time. When I went in there, Lucky, what are you doing in my office? Get into like, and I said, Sergeant Thiep, he just sent me over here. You know, and he said that you're over schedule. Are you able to help me with that? Why you ask me that question? You don't know how to do a request off. Like, come on, like, you know, and it was, you know, one of my first times I put in for a request. So I didn't know that. We didn't go over that, and we probably have went over that in the academy, but it's been so long. So I just wanted to make sure it was done right, you know. And I was sent in there by another supervisor, which is the sergeant. And then so by her mistreating me, I said, why you treat me like that? You know, you just had you had just you know, a few white deputies in here. I didn't tell her that statement like you had a few white deputies in here. I said, why you treat me like that when y'all were just, you know, having a ball in here? And then you know, and I said, what did I do wrong? And then she was like, are you fit for duty? And that's what prompted I said, you know what? I'm not fit for duty. Yeah, I would like to speak to a higher ranking supervisor. She threw that fitness for duty in my face, you know, and I said, and I just simply asked her, I said, can I speak to a higher ranking supervisor? And then she didn't allow me. She gave me an order to go into service after I requested to speak with a higher ranking supervisor. And then you had Captain Trimboli right there. And her door was wide open. She heard everything, and then after everything was written up on a write up, it was totally different. They used ebonics to describe me. They made me sound like this thug on paper. They misquote me. They put if we can pull up the write up, you can see exactly how she wrote it. And I was thinking in my head, like, if a Asian person or a Spanish person was to say this and the way they speak, you think that's appropriate? You think that'd be inappropriate? She used straight hood slang and ebonics to describe my character, which I felt like also was racist and degrading to my culture.
Okay, and did that indicate to you that she perceived black people differently than white people, the way that she misquoted you?
Correct.
Okay. Now you heard Ms. Sacha give testimony on the same meeting.
Correct.
Right? Okay. Her account differs from your account, right?
Correct.
Okay.
She stated that I refused to go into service. She threw up the fitness for duty, and I said, you know what, I'm not fit for duty. Can I speak to a higher ranking supervisor? She offered me that, and I told her I'm not fit for duty. And she refused that, and she lied on the write-up and stated there were crashes and stuff on the board, and she went into service or something like that. That was not true. I went on squad 22 to dispatch. are there any calls pending? No, Deputy Squad 22, you can stay in service. There's nothing available for you. So she put on the paper that there were 6 crashes or there were crashes available for me to go to. She was dishonest about that entire thing.
Okay. So during that meeting, though, did you say that you wanted to go to a higher ranking member of the department?
Correct.
Okay, and it's only after that she told you to go into service?
After, yeah, she ordered me going to service after I requested to speak to a higher ranking supervisor.
Okay, and then when did she ask you if you were fit for duty? After that or before?
This was before I requested for a supervisor. So she asked me, she said, "Are you fit for duty?" And I said, "You know what, I'm not." And then she was like, try to order me into service. And I did request for a higher ranking supervisor before she ordered me into service.
Now, you heard Sawchuk state that you had a doctor's appointment coming up the week following.
Correct.
Do you know where she got that concept from?
The doctors, I came to her with the medical that I needed to schedule, get something off for medical.
Okay, so the purpose, correct me if I'm wrong, of this meeting, or for you going to her, was to ask to be able to schedule off for a doctor's appointment in the future.
Correct.
Okay, and then that escalated because into her asking you if you were fit for duty and ordering you to go into service.
Correct.
Okay.
And
only after you asked for a higher
ranking supervisor.
Okay, and because she was, for what reason did you request that supervisor again?
Because she was just being very rude, disrespectful. She was raising her voice. I don't remember the conversation verbatim, but I didn't use any profane. Generally I'm a loud speaker, and the thing is, you can ask any supervisor. Anytime I come to them, anytime I vent, anytime I say anything, I'll be like, before I even start, I didn't got so uncomfortable with being myself, being black at the sheriff department. Hey, before I talk, I promise you, I don't mean any harm. I'm not going to cause any harm. This is how I start my meetings off with white supervisors, because I don't want them to misperceive me as this thug, which I have a good education, a college student, 4.0 student in high school. I don't want them looking at me like that. And I've been at multiple jobs, successful, never been rid of nowhere but here.
So, okay. And when you heard testimony from Miss Byers repeatedly saying that she was afraid of you physically, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's you were aware of that at the time that you were making these statements. Is that fair?
Let's say that again.
You were aware that Miss Byers was perceived you as threatening when you were making these statements saying, "I'm not a threat."
Correct.
Okay. And do you believe that her perception of you as threatening was based upon your race or something else?
My race. And to go back to that Sawchuk meeting that I had when I tried to, call me, request for a meeting, Trimboli was right there, and she stepped outside her office, and I said, "Hey, you mind if we have a discussion?" She was right there. Lucky, I'm not talking. She was also rude. "I'm not talking to you. I'm ordering you to don't go above my head. Do not go." And she shot me back down. "Go back, start over, talk to Sergeant Thief." And I said, "How do I supposed to go to a sergeant about a lieutenant? Wouldn't that cause some kind of conflict?" So she gave me an order to start back down.
I'm going to ask you to pause there for 1 second. Who is speaking here?
Trimboli.
Trimboli's giving you an order not to go above Trimboli, but to go down to a sergeant.
Correct.
About what issue?
About the same issue that was already escalated to the lieutenant's level, about the doctor's thing.
Okay.
He wanted me to make a complaint about Lieutenant Sawchuk to Sergeant Thief. And I said, I'll be in trouble. It's conflicting orders. So,
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Okay. Because you would have been, let me put it like this. Was Captain Tromboli's order that follow the sheriff's department policy?
It wasn't.
Okay.
Because the rule is to go up, not to go down.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So, did we hear testimony? Did you recall any testimony from Sawchuk about feeling threatened by you?
No.
Okay. but definitely buyers, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, she was indicating that she was part of the reason she was sending your discrimination complaint was that she was concerned about what you might do. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Did you understand that to mean, or what did you understand that to mean what you might do?
She perceived it, I believe, as if I'm a threat, or possibly sue for race.
Okay. And did you hear testimony for Ms. Byers that she violated policy and recorded you?
Correct.
Okay. And when you did you learn that for the first time today?
Yes.
Okay. And you were investigated for recording Sergeant Gladney, right?
Yes.
Okay. And when you learned that the white supervisor was not investigated for recording you, but you were investigated for recording the supervisor as a black man, how did that make you feel?
It confirmed everything that I've been saying. Is the black people get treated fairly different than whites in the department, especially being alone. I didn't have a black peer there. I was the only one. I feel like it was intentional to place me out there to let me sink like that. And, you know, I worked hard to be where I was.
Okay. So, yes. After you went to HR, you also received another insubordination complaint, right?
I received one from Byers and Sawchuck on the same day, given to by Lieutenant Smoot.
Okay. And when I just for vocabulary's sake, the thing that happened on the same day that was that they were actually written up. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. But the incidents happened months or some time prior to that.
Way prior, yes.
Okay.
And Byers wrote me up for failing to notify use of force. So in training, we had a discussion. It was a counseling session, which he told me at the time of the incident, and I was being trained. I haven't signed off on use of force, any use of force policy. I haven't trained off on no policy, and I was under the hands of an FTO, which they are responsible for me, which I end up being an FTO later down the road. So anything they do wrong, it falls on the FTO. So what I believe was from my prior experience at the House of Corrections, any use of force, you do have to notify a supervisor, take pictures, and notify EMS. So in this instance, I was handling a subject at Freighter Hospital, and I believe my perception, I believe I stabilized the subject and he used dead weight tactics, which he failed. So I wrote up my report. Byers reviewed it later down the road and I guess determined it was a use of force. And she wrote me up. I mean, she verbally said, hey, change this stabilization to decentralization, which she made it a use of force. And she changed my words around in that report. And she altered my report and had me change something to her verbiage versus what I believed, and made it a use of force.
Okay, so let's hold on there a second. So you